Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to today's video, which is going to be another video in the Veteran Player Guide series. I'm going to take a brief break just from doing some of the positional aspects. Next up, I want to talk about map awareness, mini-map awareness, and just map awareness in general. But I had this fun game happen a few days ago, and some of you who perhaps looked at one of my recent YouTube community posts saw me post this battle. So as the video title is going to give it away, we are going to pick up a solo warrior in this battle. It's my 7th solo warrior in over 5 years of playing the game. And I kind of want to break down how do solo warriors typically happen in World of Warships. There's two ways that come to my mind. Perhaps there's a third or fourth way. But I'll talk about the most common way that you obtain a solo warrior is exactly how this battle goes. Our team is going to be very strong on the front end and a bit weaker on the back end. But in terms of we get map control, for the most part, we get points control. There's a points lead that happens. And then it's kind of the definition of throwing the game, right? So I don't know how many times you probably have all seen this before, where your team's doing really good. You've had map control, you have the capture points, and then the team continues to push in and get too close and die. Basically, that's going to be a mix of what happens in this game and some questionable position choices by, I think, some of our battleships in the last part of the battle before it's just me. But generally speaking, what happens is just strong front end game, and then the back end of the game, people get a little too excited, they get low results, they get too close, they end up dying. That's the normal way that you pick up a solo warrior. The other very rare way that I've picked up solo warriors is just like your whole team just like really sucks, and you end up carrying the whole thing. Like there's a ranked battle I had when ranked was 7 versus 7, and I'm in Prince Heinrich, and I had to kill the entire enemy team to get the win. Right, so sometimes it's a sweaty, carried, very difficult win. So those are the two immediate things that come to mind, but the first I mentioned, what you're going to see in this battle is the most typical way. So I want to break down how does a solo warrior typically happen. So just a few things to note here. So I'm playing San Martin. We've pushed a Katsonis, which has an 8.5 kilometer, very short duration radar. And we pushed him away, and there's kind of this voice in my mind saying, hey, what if the Katsonis pushes back in and you get caught out with a Vermont, Seattle, and some of these other ships? You should probably pre-radar. And so I only pre-radar there because Katsonis had just stepped on the cap and the cap's being contested. So I should have listened to that voice. So now I'm kind of at the mercy if the Vermont's loaded or if he's paying attention or not. We do also get, it's a 9 kilometer radar in San Martin, and then you also get torpedoes. They're 10.5. And typically how you play the torps, in my opinion, with San Martin is that you're just torping choke points. So we get Dove Strike in their first blood on the Seattle, who decided to stop broadside out in the open. Don't ask me why. And we've been lucky so far that Vermont hasn't popped a shot on us. And then we have the Katsonis, and he's still opening up on us, so we're going to go ahead and do what we can to focus him. I would like to go dark, but even with the fire burning, our detection radius is quite great, so we might as well just go ahead and be shooting, even if that means, of course, the Vermont will get a salvo on us, which he just did, so we're trying to kill all throttle, turn out a little bit here, and yeah, we take a decent smack there. And Doom smokes me up. So kind of having this like light cruiser combination with the smoke is always really great, especially trying to get there early on cap control, but you do take risk, and that has certainly been this game so far, and maybe some other risk that we're going to see later on. So I'm not going to talk so much more about the ship, but kind of more talk about what's happening, paying attention to the mini-map. So we basically have secured C. What you'll normally see at sea is that the team, your team, enemy team might try to go up, like for example on the enemy spawn, they really try to push the AB line and kind of try to circle around on the north end of the cap and push down. We had some teammates that have pushed up the 10 line and hook around. So basically with this map, if you don't control that edge, then they kind of wedge and they end up pushing you away. So that's essentially what we're doing to the enemy team here on this flank, is that we got rid of the Katsonis in the Seattle early, so that was super helpful. But now we're kind of coming around and we're going to be a wedge here and pushing them away. Now, in terms of like normally what you see with player behavior, typically how solo warriors happen is that normally, like, how do I phrase that? I'm trying to remember the right way to phrase this. It tends to be that your team and the enemy team are almost even, so to speak, but typically the enemy team is just a little better, and then that kind of opens up the door for getting a solo warrior. So this Schlieffen on our flank, he's getting overzealous. He's pushing into 3 kiting ships. He's pushing into Azuma. He's pushing into Golden Lion. He's pushing into a Vermont. Spoiler alert, he's going to get sassy in chat that we weren't helping him. And he's pushing into Azuma, designed for kiting. You know, the Golden Lion can do a decent job at kiting, especially with the airstrikes. And Vermont with, you know, 12 457s. Like, don't really understand how you expected that outcome to be any different, right? Because he's dead, okay? So as long as Doom continues to kind of apply pressure with the torps, it will be helpful in trying to prevent them from recircling back in on the top of C. I've decided for the meantime, I'm going to move down towards Bravo, where we want to engage the Izumo. I could have actually moved up a little bit more towards behind this island here, so I wouldn't be risking being detected. So I'm looking constantly behind me to see if Vermont will be cheeky and take a salvo or something like that. I really like I have not played this ship a lot. Actually, my win rate's really bad, but my personal rating and damage and all that is actually Unicum level with this ship. Even though it's a bad win rate, I've only had like 13 battles in this ship. But one of the things that's different for me to try to get used to, because I really like playing Minotaur, is the fuse timer. So if you saw the broadside Katsonis earlier, you saw we were getting nothing but overpins on his broadside. And that's because our fuse timer is 0.025 seconds. So it means like an arming threshold of 25 millimeter, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So we would like get full pins on like L being Ragnar, that kind of thing. But it's only like, I think, a 16 millimeter on Katsonis 19, something like that. Where like on Minotaur, your fuse timer is 0.0005 seconds and your arming threshold is 10 millimeters. So you get full pins on DDs, which is what makes Minotaur so scary. Right, but we can get some nasty standard fuse times when we're shooting broadside battleships. So kind of the challenge that you have with San Martin or Minotaur is when the targets are bow in. So like Russian ships are a nightmare to deal with and trying to get any damage. So just kind of explain a little more about the ship to you. But the torpedoes really help, and of course you have the funny button to get was it an 80% cooldown on the consumable operation readiness, negative 85% consumable preparation reload time, because you have a very long duration across your consumables, right? So anyhow, back to the battle. So Doom took out the Vermont, which is great. So that makes it more easy for me to move down here into Bravo. You can see on the map, we have all control of the caps, except now A is being contested. As we're only 4 ships down, enemy team is now down 6. As the Hoffman gets taken out, it's really, really, really helpful to take out the DDs, because they can make life a pain if there's still one left on the enemy team. Where in the typical like solo warrior scenario, not always, but it's much more helpful if it's cruisers and battleships are what's left on the enemy team. So we're not talking about hybrids, we're not talking about submarines, we're not talking about destroyers, or CVs if I didn't already say that. And this battle is really fun because there are no submarines and there are no CVs and there are no hybrids. Like the closest thing to the hybrid was is the Golden Line, which we're going to still have to deal with later on here in the game. So you can see that I think it's the Golden Line that's out there on the C3. He's actually doing a pretty good job in the sense that he doesn't want to just completely a run to the south, he's still trying to harass us, pushing down from C to B. So that's really smart on him. So what we're going to do here, typically when you're working towards the win, of course, and what ends up being a solo warrior, is we want to delay their cap progress at A as much as possible. So the big thing with getting solo warriors is buying yourself time, right? So we are 607 points. They're 135 points. And I just get spotted there, and I'm panicking a little bit here. But we'll go back to being dark here shortly. But you want to try to keep them down as low as possible. I mean, if you're really trying to farm a solo warrior, then it's like where you want the enemy team to have a chance to come back. But, I don't go for solo warriors, right? It's just like this is how they normally happen, and this is what you're seeing here, and what ends up being because of the decisions we make to help secure the win for our team. Like that's the way in which I want to phrase breaking down a solo warrior. So what we're going to do here is we're going to utilize this island, and we are going to just keep resetting the various ships here at Alpha Cap as much as possible. Now we pulled up to far. But you kind of drift a little bit with propulsion on cruisers, right? So we do want to reverse here as we lose our Jacksonville. I think he was farther back. So the enemy team is climbing their way back in. Doom has more deep water torpedoes coming in, very helpful in bringing down these more larger hit points on the battleships, particularly the Satsuma that's in here. So we're going to see, I can't shoot the Clausewitz. The island's too high for me to arc it. And I'm like, ooh, Colombo, I think I'll just let him go by. And we will be doing some more damage to him later here. But what you're going to see here is because of the AP, like I talked about, when the target's more bow in, you have a really hard time in getting the kill and finishing him off in San Martin. So this Preußen's like, he's going to heal. And I'm just going to be like, I'm going to have to just not focus him because I have to keep rotating my targets. So I need to reset the Satsuma. I think I get some shots off on Clausewitz here in a little bit and trying to reset him. And you can see we're already up to 12 defended ribbons, 13. I'm just going to keep going. So as much as I just want to keep focusing Preußen because he's close to death, it's really important that I try to buy our team more time and delaying the enemy team with their cap progress. Because the only way they're earning any points right now is getting any kills on us like they just did there. So now they're 245 or 615 and we lose points, of course, when we lose the ship. So there you can see Preußen's healing. And so I'm like, I'm going to have to let him go. As much as I want to focus, trying to get some decent salvos there. Situational awareness, we lose our cruiser, right? So I'm going to switch back to the Satsuma and try to get salvo off on the Clausewitz. Because you can see the cap progress is, again, it's getting closer, like 3/4 of the way getting in. So every time I keep shooting the Preußen, it's slowing down their cap progress, but if I don't reset the other ships, then it's just going to keep ticking because other ships haven't been reset, right? Now, unfortunately, I don't have any torpedoes because I spammed some earlier thinking if Colombo might yellow. Colombo ends up going really wide, and he goes quite broadside here. I'm going to have to stop focusing on the ships in the cap now because it's more important that I try to get salvo or two off on the Colombo. And you can see here some of the AP damage being broadside, almost 8,000k salvo. And I'm like, can I get a third salvo off? I do. There's another 7k salvo. And then I have to stop shooting now. And we lose Doom to the Golden Line. I don't know if it's the Hydro or what got him there. So we're going to back off now. I have to go dark. Now it's 3 versus 5. And 656 to 268 points. And this is actually really important here. I end up turning my AA off because the Colombo's trying to fish out where exactly I am. He's now pushing more back in, and I made a decision. Part of being more of a veteran player or being decently good at the game is you make more pre-decisions. Okay, after this, what am I going to be doing next? So you kind of already know the next decision or 2 or 3 you're going to make before the timing for those decisions needs to happen. So this we have 1 battleship in our cap. He's full on broadside to enemy fire coming up from A. It's bad. I think the Montana, so it was Satsuma. I think the Montana grounded, and then he reversed, and now he's trying to get away. He's going to end up showing a lot of broadside up between B and C rather than just running, and that's super frustrating. So we're trying to get another kill secure here. We get him really low. And I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with sap from Colombo. And he does get a salvo off, I think, of the 2 rear turrets, and we take a hit there. So we're going to go ahead and DCP that. I'm debating if I want to use a heal right now or not. The ironic thing is that the reason why I'm even playing San Martin was for naval battles. We were close with this EU clan, and I even forgot to turn on my naval battle attempts after the battle was over. We get the base XP we needed. But I'll have a 13-point commander here because I moved the commander I had on him on San Martin to the Libertad. We're a bit cheeky there in taking that shot. That tells me the golden line is close. He's within my main battery firing range, 15.5, so it tells me he's moving in on Bravo. I decided to go ahead and heal. We do have our funny button ready, so we can get our next heal ready as soon as possible if needed. And I'm going to slow him down here. I want to see if I can buy a little bit more time for the team. I mean, there's 4 minutes, 780 to 320, but I would like to have some assurances here if it's another kill or it's a delayed cap progress at Bravo. But I do have to be mindful of the golden line that's moving in behind me into Bravo. So I'm going to dump some torps off that direction, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn and get torps off the other direction. So that's kind of the fun thing with San Martin. Like, you know, you can't have a ship just yellow you, like, because you also have torps, right, and it's the 3-kilometer hydro. But you can also use your torps in this kiting fashion, because you can see you have really good torpedo firing angles. And there's a guy in the chat who's saying, you know, at this point, just run. And, like, that's definitely the right choice to do. Sometimes you have people who throw that don't understand that there are times, like, you know, you win just by running versus pushing back in like our Montana player is doing here. The golden line is really close, so I'm like, ah, crap. I need to be able to turn out more away from him. So I am cutting it close here a little bit. I decided to go ahead and use the funny button so I get my next heal ready as soon as possible. Keep in mind our AA is still off. He's right in there. So if the golden line, this is kind of a key moment for the golden line. If he hadn't stopped and slowed down behind the island and instead kept pushing me, their team had a chance. But he doesn't end up doing that here. He slows down and he wants to secure the cap, which is important, but he's got the rest of his team coming up into B to do that. You can see the other torpedoes are fired at that choke point. Again, noting firing torpedoes and choke points for, I think there's enemy Satsuma. We get a Confederate, but we do get a flood. So he's going to actually flood. We actually get a decent amount of flood damage this game for a ship that's not designed necessarily for torpedoing a lot of targets. This, that, and the other. And I'm going to throw some off to the side just in case enemy ship is coming that way. So at this point, it's just best for us to run the furthest direction away. It's not trying to be like weird and circling back down the 10 line down to the J line. Like there's islands up here to the north, up by, you know, here on the 10 line and north of the A line. So that's what we want to do. And we also want to delay, again, any type of cap progress ends up happening here at C. So you can see I'm already lining up torps. So I'm like, you know, they needed a cap B. We took advantage. We got a torp hit on Satsuma. We reset him. And then they're going to need a cap C. The points difference is too great now. They need to be able to get the kill on me. Notice my AA is still off. Golden Line's going to be throwing out some random airstrikes. But we can get more defended ribbons. We can get more resets. Make life a little bit more frustrating for the enemy team. The worst thing we could do is just randomly open up now. You know, Golden Line has a pretty good conceal. I think it's around 10.5 or 10.8, something like that. But we have the 9.1. So that's really good. And this is also the other thing you have to be mindful of. Like the biggest weakness, I think, more for veteran players or players who are really skilled at the game, who do end up also throwing. It's not just the noobs who throw; it's also the veteran players who throw. Is if you're really close to maybe getting some damage threshold, or maybe you're like me in this video and you're really close to getting a Kraken Unleashed. I just need one more kill, right? So commenting in chat that the Golden Line just took a torp. So I know the Golden Line's low. So now I'm thinking through. I would really like to get my Kraken, but I don't want to throw the game. So this is what I'm going to do. If I spot the Golden Line, I will shoot him, but only right when it's about to tick that we're going to win. and I can't be dev struck before the win happens, you know. So I have my next heal ready. I'm ready to pre-heal once I get spotted. There's no sense of holding my last heal. I get my guns ready. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, at the 2-second mark, I go ahead and take the shot because the golden line won't have enough time to react and get a threat strike off on me in time before we claim victory. I pre-heal, I turn out, and unfortunately, we don't get the Kraken unleashed. But it was a good shot there at the end. But otherwise, in general, you shouldn't do what I just did there. If you're not confident, I was confident we could still have victory and not throw the game. So, General Offensive, Confederate, Death Strike, Dreadnought, Solar Warrior, First Blood with 190,000 damage, with 21 defended ribbons is what we got as a whole. So very close to being a really bad throw here, but we clutched the win. So Doom and I, top of the team, with 2,330 base XP and 1,989. So the Golden Lion, and I was like, oh yeah, he was playing really well. He got 1,500 base XP on a loss, and even his Cloud Sweats buddy did really well, good as well. And I kind of could tell that the Golden Lion was actually seemed to be a pretty good player in how he positioned early on, and he had AP loaded for us because he knew he needed to get the kill, not just high explosive. So our flood damage was 19,000, torpedoes 51,000, main battery 119,000. We took 74,000 damage. So someone was commenting, I think, on the community post that I had that the ship's kind of a cockroach. And I was like, okay, yeah, they mean it in the way that the ship can be really hard to kill because of the really powerful heal. And if you get the funny button ready to trigger, to reduce the cooldown on your heal, that you can get the next heal off a lot faster. So typically, how you saw this battle play out, that's the traditional way of how you end up getting a Solar Warrior. You have to make smart choices early on, and I mean, not just early on, but throughout the game. Typically, the enemy team is slightly better than your team, and usually you have your team at least starts out pretty strong in terms of map control, cap control. There's a great points difference that the enemy team can't come back from necessarily. I mean, I've seen some, I think I've had a Solar Warrior or two that had been like seconds away from deciding whether or not it's going to be Solar Warrior or just a defeat. But here, we had a nice cushion and we delayed them. So this is breaking down a Solar Warrior for today's Veteran Player Guide video. And probably next week I'll do more on situational awareness and minimap awareness, because those two things are quite big. If you're not aware of what's happening around you, or you're not aware of what's happening on the minimap and how the battle is progressing, those are two huge things in helping you be more of a skilled, more of a veteran player in the game. So if you liked today's video, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you subscribe, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.